I'm Steve Wiggins, and this is the Groundworks Ministries podcast. Today we're reading from the book of 1 Chronicles, chapter 16, and let's focus on verses 23 through 30. Sing to the Lord, all the earth. Proclaim the good news of His salvation from day to day. Declare His glory among the nations, His wonders among all peoples. For the Lord is great and greatly to be praised. He is also to be feared above all gods, for all the gods of the peoples are idols. But the Lord made the heavens. Honor and majesty are before Him. Strength and gladness are in His place. Give to the Lord, O families of the peoples. Give to the Lord glory and strength. Give to the Lord the glory due His name. Bring an offering and come before Him. Oh, worship the Lord in the beauty of holiness. Tremble before Him, all the earth. The world also is firmly established. It shall not be moved. Now, many years ago, my family moved to suburban Chicago. Having never lived outside of the South, we were so excited to learn that Chicago had a little Italy. They had Chinatown. They had all these sections of the city. The thriving Eastern European and Latino cultures as well. So growing up in Arkansas and Mississippi, Louisiana like I did, I think the most exotic thing we ever experienced was Taco Bell. So our family would take these day trips when we lived in Chicago to various ethnic centers, and the whole experience was just amazing. And still, even though we had a good time spending the day living among the hospitable, Italians and the Chinese culture and the Polish communities and all this, there was this lingering reality that we were kind of like foreigners on their turf. I never walked away from those areas of town with a real compelling desire to learn the language or to explore the literature and the philosophers or to adopt the traditional dress, apart from a random t-shirt, I suppose. No big deal, right? I mean, at the end of the day, we were just simple sheep of a different fleece and hanging out. But we went back home and we just went back to being who we were. And whenever you read the Old Testament, it's easy to kind of view the narrative as purely the history of a foreign people with little to no appreciation for today's world. And while the number of Jewish believers in Yeshua, Jesus, is growing, for the vast majority of Christians, the Old Testament recounts the history of someone else's family, of another people. And you might as well be reading about the history of the Ming Dynasty in many respects. And perhaps that's why so few Christians read the Old Testament at all, much less the Bible. And it may also explain why most Christians don't read their New Testaments, right? After all, the entire Bible is mostly a Jewish book, written by Jewish guys who are primarily explaining to other Jewish guys that Jesus is the Messiah, and that God is real and you should honor Him as holy. All the while, the Jewish believers in the New Testament, right, when we read the New Testament, all the Jewish believers, all they're trying to figure out is how to cope with all these Gentiles, non-Jews that are coming to faith in the Jewish Messiah. So in today's passage, we have a reminder from the Lord that He is not just the God of the Jewish people. Rather, He is the God of the whole earth. After all, He created the whole earth with all of its people. And what does that mean? Well, it means that all religion, apart from the Bible, is man-made. Hence, it is false. I said it. I'll say it again. All religion, apart from the Bible, is man-made. Why? Because there's no other God that came over and said, well, I made the seas. Or some other God comes and says, well, I made the mountains, or I made the fish. Nobody raises their hand, by the way, and says, I made the duck-billed platypus, but I digress. There's only one God, and He made it all. There are no other gods. And God's hatred of false gods is inflexible. He doesn't tolerate them. He says that the world which he created is firmly established, and it shall not be moved. And he underscores Israel's reason for existing as his chosen, that they would glorify his name and tell of his wondrous works, and hope that people from around the world, all whom the Lord made, those who are weak in their faith would be encouraged. Those who have no faith would come to a saving knowledge of him. And so a people who did not know him will turn from their sin, embrace him for who he is, and seek his word, that they would receive salvation. You see, this has always been God's desire for all men throughout history. And it's comforting to know that biblical history is actually our history too. I'm Steve Wiggins, and this is the Groundworks Ministries podcast. If you are enjoying these devotionals from Groundworks Ministries podcast, would you tell a friend? Just maybe your friends or your family, or you could share these devotionals on your social media because we need more and more people from all over the world to seek the God of the world and the God of all creation, so that they would not only enter into salvation with him, but they would walk with him all the days of their lives. I'm Steve Wiggins, and this is the Groundworks Ministries podcast. Once again, check us out at groundworksministries.com.